Hey you guys, welcome back to our channel. It's S here and it's time for another story time. This time is about how I enlisted into the military. First I want to talk about how I was sick. I'm feeling a lot better now. Um, I'm not going to go into detail about why I was sick or what was wrong right now. That's just something that goes into some other stories I plan on sharing with you all. But just know that I do not have corona and that I am fine and living life. So I'm here to tell you guys about how I enlisted into the military. So yeah, let's get started on that story. So when I decided to enlist, I had just moved back to Texas. I was staying with my aunt at the time. When I first moved back to Texas, I was staying with my sister, my older sister, for a little while. We decided that things weren't working out, and I kind of hopped around for a while, and then finally ended up at my aunt's. Anyways, so I was just trying to figure out what to do because, of course, I moved to Texas to start over and to just basically figure out what I wanted to do with life. And I just remember, I think we went to a donut shop, and while we were at the donut shop, there was a pamphlet. There was all kinds of little pamphlets and business cards and stuff sitting on top of like a counter or something. And I just happened to look at one of them, and it was for I think it was for the Marines. And it just made me think, like, I had remembered that when I first got out of high school, I had wanted to join the military. But my grandmother I was living with in Indiana was like, no, that's not an option. You're going to school. So, at the time, I didn't really think to act for myself. So I did what I felt like I had to. And I went to college instead. I had tried to go to the military somewhere after I decided, school wasn't for me. But I tried to go to the Air Force, and he asked me like 3 questions before I even got in the door. Like, he literally stopped me at the door and asked me like 3 questions. Do you have any kids? Do you have a background and asthma or something simple like that? And I was like, yeah, I do have a background, but there was this mess. He's like, no, we can't take you. So that was it. I remember I stopped smoking weed for the longest. I stopped doing all kinds of stuff, everything, just so I could join. And then when I went up to the office, I was so disappointed. I remember I was so disappointed. But anyway, so I just decided that maybe I could try again, get my life back on track and try to join the military. So, and a part of me that wanted to join was, not just the benefits of, you get schooling, you get to travel. It was also just the adventure of it, like the adventure of it, and then also the idea of fighting for my family, my country, and God. I was real motivated about doing stuff like that, like doing stuff for other people, and that was kind of like what the military was to me. Was I was able to do something for outside of myself, and that I enjoyed. So now that I decided that I'm going to join, my biggest decision was which branch to join. And me just being picky, I definitely went through all of them and made a calculated choice. It was very, I guess you could say, I want to say it was a calculated choice. So I tried the Air Force again first. And I went in there and I aced that the practice test or whatever they give you when you go in there. And we went ahead and went on with the process, and only for the guy to check my credit. He came back to say he checked my credit, and he told me I need to get all this fixed, or at least to get some type of proof that I'm working on these things that are on my credit. And then he also said that I needed to make an essay about why my credit is so bad and why I had the background, which I told him about the background, the possession of marijuana charge that I had, which is from my previous story that I just told y'all about. But it got dismissed. So he wanted an essay basically explaining what happened and all of that. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. If I had the money to pay off my credit, I would not be joining the military. And if I knew I was going to have to write essays, I would have stayed in school. I mean, it's just as simple as that. So anyway, after he did that, I decided that it was best not to go with the Air Force. So I decided to try the Army. And I went to the Army and I told him basically about my experience with the Air Force. And that, I guess, encouraged the recruiter to then feel like he needed to make everything in the Army seem like it would be easy, because that's exactly what he said. After that, he was like, oh, well, you'll get through boot camp, no problem. And then once you get through boot camp, you get through school, no problem. You rank up, no problem. Everything's pretty much easy. It's pretty much how he explained it. He put his feet on the desk. He just didn't seem to have like any discipline. There was no discipline. He was too lax. And it just didn't have any appeal to me. And walked right by the Navy. I tell you, I walked right by the Navy because I cannot swim. And I thought that the Navy was nothing but about water and everything about water. And me and water just don't mix. I can swim enough to stay alive, but when you talk about, I can't swim is what I tell people, because we're not about to play in the water. You're not about to drown me and get me drowned. Anyway, so that led me to the Marines. And when I walked up in the Marines office, their uniforms were on point, their postures, they were so stout, like they was just standing straight up there. And then when I talked to them, they were so prideful and confident. And even when I mentioned to them about my experience with the other branches, they was like, yeah, that's how they are. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Nothing about what you're going to go through is easy, but it's going to be worth it. And you're going to have the title of Marine. That's something you can't never change. You can't ever take back, and nobody can ever take that from you. And like the way he explained it, it just was something that I wanted to be a part of. And it made me understand more where my cousin was coming from when he came home, because he was a Marine and we were really close. We'll call him Zao Todd. And we were really close growing up in high school and stuff. And he had became a Marine, but that wasn't the initial reason why I decided to. It was mainly just because out of all of them, that one seemed to fit me more when it came to my personality and everything that I expected to get out of joining. I'd say when you join a branch like the Marines, you're joining because it's for something more than just the benefits and everything like that, because you have to really want it to get through the boot camp and everything the mental process, the physical process, everything it wears you down on you, and you have to have the mental capacity, physical capacity to withstand it, and you gotta want it, and you gotta want it a lot more than just for those things. And I felt like that's why it was the best for me, is because it gave me more than just the benefits out of it. I would get something more than that. And anyway, so when you enlist, you have to go through that physical process. You go through at MEPS. So you get through the ASVAB. I get really well in the ASVAB. It was like 87 or something like that. And then you do the physical, where they make you do the hearing test. And then they check to make sure you got the right equipment you're supposed to have. Make sure you got the vagina and you got a penis down there like you're supposed to. Apparently some people made it all the way up until that point. That point where they check you. You go through a lot before you get to that point where they're checking for that. And so somebody made it all the way to that point and realized that it was not what they said they were on their paperwork. But anyways, so for when I went up to physical, I had no problems. I did the hearing test, the duck walk, all that crazy stuff that they used to ask you for. I'm not sure if they still ask you for some of those things. But they told me I had to come back because of ear cleaning. They looked in one ear and couldn't see the eardrum, they said. So I had to go through this process of getting my ear cleaned. So I had to come back for that. And then I also had to come back because I had scars on my leg. Now the scars are from when I used to self-harm, but at the time they didn't know that. Of course I couldn't say that. But it was from, the self-harm was due to the fact that I was abused as a child. So I had my mother write a letter basically attesting, saying that I was abused under her care, and that's where the scars had came from, basically, which is not the truth. It's not the entire truth, but it's not far from it. So after that process of going back, I made it through the physical and everything. So then you go through the interview process, and that's after that when they ask you all these questions from I forget what it was, like SIQ paperwork. It's this big stack of papers of where it's asking you questions about your addresses, where you worked, and people you've known, things like that. And so then they interview you on it to make sure that it's correct and accurate. And so I just remember the interview, like they try to get on you, so they try to get in your head to get you to admit to something. And I just remember the guy, he kept drilling, like I was getting through the questions. I was like, no, yes, I know that person. I know that person. type of situation, because apparently my recruiter had put some information in there that I didn't know about, and because he asked me some names about some people, and I was like, I don't know who that is, and I think I got my recruiter in trouble, which I really do apologize for that, because I didn't know that you did that. If you would have told me, we could have been on the same page, and we wouldn't have no problems. But anyways, I do remember him asking me, had you ever been to the hospital? And I was like, no, I never been to the hospital. And he was like, but it says here that you got 5 stitches on your arm. And I was like, yeah, I got 5 stitches. He's like, so where'd you get the stitches from? I was like, well, I went to the ER. He's like, well, that's the hospital. I was like, oh, I didn't think that counted. He was like, yeah, everything counts. And I was like, oh, okay, well, everything counts. So I just didn't, so I was like, okay, so everything counts. So then he's like, okay, so have you ever played an instrument? I was like, no, I've never played an instrument. He's like, are you sure? I was like, I'm pretty sure I've never played an instrument. Any instrument. It could be the recorder. No, I've never played an instrument. And then he paused. I'm like, are you really going to scrutinize me over an instrument? And then he goes on to my case. And I'm thinking, oh, he really going to get on me now. In my marijuana case, he's like, so you're telling me you've never smoked weed, but you have a marijuana case? And I was like, yeah, it got dismissed because it wasn't my weed. And I was like, I've never smoked. And he's just kind of looked at me. And I'm thinking he's going to keep going. He's like, oh, okay, well, that's it. I was like, oh. That was surprising, but I wasn't going to complain. I needed to do what I needed to do to get in and get on. So I did. I got that day after I got my interview, I was able to enlist. I swore in that day, and I got my ship off day, and that is what my next video is going to be about. I'm going to tell you guys about how I stepped on those famous yellow footprints and sold my soul to the United States government. All right, guys. See you later. Like, comment, and subscribe. And talk to you guys later. Bye.